Hello everyone, this is Angel Batra from UniVoyage, and today we would be talking about questions that were asked during the IPMAT Rohtak interview. So let's get started. The questions we would be talking about today were questions that were asked from students of IIM Rohtak in their interviews. So if the interview is same, chances are you would be asked similar kinds of questions in your interview. So based on all the data that we curated, we can divide the interview into 5 major segments: general questions, stream-based questions, general knowledge questions, situation-based questions, and extempore speech. So we're going to discuss each of these in detail. So general questions. General questions are asked to get a first impression of the candidate. And they could be questions, it could be personal questions or just general about you, where you live, what you did. So some of the questions that were asked were, tell me about yourself. This question is quite common, so this is something that you should prepare in advance. Which city or state did you grow up in? And with this question there could be another follow-up question saying, what is your city or state famous for? Or what do you know about your city or state? And any other questions related to your city or state. What is the meaning of your name? You should know that. You say if your name has meaning in both Hindi and English, you should know. Whichever language that your name originates from, you should know the original meaning. Why did you choose IIM Rohtak? Considering that there are a lot of options now, why specifically IIM Rohtak? Now, you have to be creative here. You have to give them an answer which would make you stand out. Did you subscribe to UniVoyage? No, do not. They reject the candidates who do not subscribe to UniVoyage. So hit that subscribe button right now, and even if you are subscribed, go check that you go ensure that you're subscribed, because YouTube sometimes unsubscribes you. So we don't want that, right? We don't want to get rejected. Just kidding. Next question. Why do you want to do an MBA after graduation? So they can ask you about your career goals. Say you want to go in business, you want to go into your job, or anything related to your goals. What do your parents do? They can ask you for a bit of a family background. And if you are from a science background or humanities background, they could ask you questions related to your stream. Say, why are you not going for engineering or medical if you're from science? Or why are you not going for UPSC or any other stream, any other career line related to that if you're from humanities? The rest of the general questions that we asked are displayed on your screen, so feel free to go ahead and take a screenshot for later use. These general questions will set up your first impression with the interviewer, so do not mess these up. Since you have an idea of what kind of questions can be asked, you should practice them in advance to make sure that you do not fumble, especially in your first answer. And that's only possible if you practice early and prepare well. Yes, we also need to practice for interviews. You cannot do them spontaneously. The next segment is stream-related questions. Here they would ask you about your 10th and 12th marks, your past academic extracurricular achievements. And do remember, they already have that information. So do not try to sugarcoat or anything. Be as honest as you can. So the type of questions first would be general questions related to your academics, like what was your stream, what was your percentage in class 10th and 12th. Now, apart from studies, did you participate in any extracurricular activities? Now, you do need to have certificates for that, and usually they accept state level, city level, state level, or national level certificates. So it should be recognized certificate. Could be in anything, say sports, debates, quizzes, Olympiads, competitions, anything. And then they will ask you questions from academics based on your particular stream that you had in class 11 and class 12. So say if you are a commerce student, then they will ask you very basic questions from economics, accounting, and mathematics. Say if you had mathematics. So let's say from accountancy, questions like what is working capital, what is TDS, where is TDS shown in the balance sheet, how do you maintain accounting accuracy, difference between accounts payable and accounts receivable, difference between a trial balance and a balance sheet. These are some examples of questions that can be asked, and a full list of the questions that were asked in the interviews is on your screen. Feel free to screenshot it for later use. From economics, they can ask questions like what is microeconomics or what is macroeconomics, what is demand and supply, what is the market equilibrium, what do you mean by price elasticity of demand or income elasticity of demand, define monopoly and oligopoly, what's monopolistic competition, perfect competition, And then they can ask you formulas, say GDP, unemployment rate, CPI, inflation rate, or other related formulas. Rest of the questions that were asked displayed on your screen. You know what to do. For mathematics, you will either be asked to solve a problem or tell a formula or draw a graph. So make sure to keep a sheet of paper, say a notebook or diary or something next to you, so you can easily solve the questions or draw graphs based on what they ask. Questions like say integrals, say integral of sin x dx, or say differential of log x, other questions can be asked. Matrices and determinants were a common topic in the questions, like properties of addition and scalar matrix, conditional probability and formulas and its properties, then graphs like graph of log x, graph of e to the power x, and other similar questions. The rest of the questions that were asked are on your screen. You know what to do. Right. One key point you should remember is there's a probability that they may ask you, what was your favorite subject? Now, if you do mention a subject, chances are they will ask you more questions from that subject. So if you are asked this question, make sure that you tell them the subject which you are most prepared for. If you're from a science stream student, they're going to ask you basic questions from physics, chemistry, and mathematics depending on your stream. But the most probability is they will ask questions from physics and chemistry. So mathematics, we already discussed the questions. The questions from physics and chemistry that were asked are on your screen. Screenshot it for later use. Now, there are very few percentage of students from humanities who sit for an IPMAT Rohtak interview, but there are students there. So for them, the stream-based questions were quite minimum, and they were mostly asked questions based on general knowledge or current affairs, which is going to be our next segment of this video. The third segment that we have is general knowledge questions. The general knowledge questions were asked from mostly everyone, irrespective of what stream they had in the higher studies, higher school level. So these questions can revolve around current affairs, about your home state, about history and geography, about politics, or any other news, or they can even ask you what news you are currently following and ask questions from that. So some of the common repeated questions were, which states are you from? What is it mostly known for? India shares its boundary with which other countries? They can ask you currencies of nearby countries. How many seats are there in Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha? How is the president elected? Name any 3 female cabinet ministers in India. Who's the vice president of India? And mostly then they can ask questions from current affairs based on whichever news is trending right now. The rest of the general knowledge questions that were asked are on your screen. Save it. Next segment that we have is situation-based questions. Now, situation-based questions are a rarity, but there is a chance that it might be asked. So in this situation, the candidates were given a situation and were asked to respond to it. Say, if you're selected in both IIM Rohtak and IIM Indore, which one will you choose? Here, answer for most of us is obvious, but they do not want the obvious answer. They want a creative answer. They want to see how you solve problems, how you deal with situations that come across you. So this would all depend on how you construct your answer. Another example is, what will you prefer? Working a 9-to-5 job which pays a good salary, say 1 lakh a month, or work your own business with lesser pay, say 30,000 a month. Again, it's all your own creativity which will determine the outcome of these questions. These were the only situation-based questions that we were able to gather from our batch and our seniors. But remember, whatever the question may be, you just have to be creative. And the last segment that we have is the extempore speech. Now, do remember, mostly extempore speech is asked towards the end. So all your interview is over, they'll wish you all the best and you'll exit the meeting. But a few unfortunate ones are caught with the extempore speech. Now, do remember, extempore speech again has 2 sides. Mostly they're asked towards the end of the interview. When it's all done and they have like a bit more time on their hands, they may ask you an extempore. But for few candidates, they were given the extempore at the very beginning of the interview. So there is a chance that you will have to face an extempore. So for extempore, they will give you a topic and then they will give you around 30 to 45 seconds to think on that topic, and then they will ask you to give a 1 to 2 minute speech on that particular topic. So it will test your overall general knowledge, English speaking fluency, body language, time management and creativity. This is easily the toughest part of the interview, and you hope that you do not have to encounter an extempore. But even if you do, remember to not panic. They also understand. So you have 30 to 45 seconds to prepare for it, to think about it, which is why keep a sheet of paper next to you so you can note down relevant points that come across your mind, and then you speak for about a minute or two depending on how you're asked. So topics that we gathered were mostly asked are: who's your role model? Why are they your role model? How did you spend your time during lockdown? You could be asked to give a speech on any political or historical figures, say Narendra Modi, Mahatma Gandhi, Vallabhbhai Patel, or any other historical or political figures. And one most common question was: convince us to select you in an IIM Rohtak program. Again, so these were some of the extempore topics that the panelists asked. So be prepared for whatever comes in front of you. So that's pretty much it. That was all for questions that were asked during IPMAT Rohtak interview, and we will soon be coming up with another video based on mock interviews. So we'll get an idea on how an interview actually happens, and will help you prepare better for your own interview. If you found this video informational, hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more such content, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.